I'm in. What do you mean you're in? I've got full access to the control panel. There's a list of computers here that looks pretty serious. It's much more than just the Dalai Lama's office. It started as an experiment, another wild hunch. We had been working with computer hackers and field researchers the world over for years, picking up the digital trails left by state officials and a slew of bad guys. But this was different. It was January 2009, and Nart Villeneuve, the then 34-year-old lead technical researcher at the Citizen Lab, had made an extraordinary breakthrough. I'm in, he whispered into the phone from his workstation. And when I asked how, he said, I just Googled it. So began the story of GhostNet. Villeneuve's finding, 22 characters typed into Google, turned out to be our Rosetta Stone, our key to eventually uncovering an espionage network affecting more than 100 countries and targeting ministries of foreign affairs, embassies, and other state agencies, international organizations, businesses, and global media outlets. My world would never be the same. The GhostNet investigation had begun months earlier when Greg Walton, one of our field researchers, learned of persistent concerns about computers being hacked into at the Dalai Lama's headquarters. Walton knew northern India well, had lived in the small town of Dharamsala, where the Tibetan government in exile, Tibetan NGOs, and the office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama are located. The Tibetan community in exile had long suspected that their computers were being monitored by the Chinese government. While attempting to cross the border into China, people doing advocacy work on behalf of Tibet were detained, interrogated, and presented with transcripts of their private chat and email messages. Although it is possible, in fact likely, that the Chinese government pressured companies to modify their products to provide them with backdoor access, or to simply turn over user data upon request, it is also possible that the Tibetans had their computers compromised at source. Foreign government officials planning to visit the Dalai Lama or to meet with him privately when he traveled to their countries had been told by China to stand down, not to meet him. But the issue now was, how did Chinese authorities know in advance that this or that meeting between the Dalai Lama and foreign sympathizers was to take place? When presented with the idea of the Citizen Lab checking into this matter, Tibetan officials agreed to turn over their machines for inspection. It was a serious decision, as we would be given unrestricted access to computers at the office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Tibetan government in exile, and Tibetan NGOs in Dharamsala, New York, Brussels, and London. Although the Dalai Lama himself liked to point out publicly that they had no secrets, his office and those of other Tibetan organizations handled sensitive communications, including private correspondence and information about travel schedules. They took a risk working with us, one that paid off in the end. Cyber espionage is a dark art, widely speculated about, but rarely examined in the light of day. There have been cases of state cyberspying reported on in the media, but too often key pieces of evidence were either missing or, more likely, locked down in the secret chambers of the world's leading intelligence agencies. Titan Rain, the huge compromise of American military and intelligence agencies and companies, was an exception between 2003 and 2006, and suspicions ran high that it was orchestrated by China-based hackers doing dirty work for their government. The Chinese government was almost certainly connected in some manner to what we unearthed too, and once the cat was out of the bag, there would be international diplomatic furor.